Hello everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and this time round it is a non-fiction book and it is about communities. It is written by Jono Bacon and it's his new book called People Powered: How Communities Can Supercharge Your Business, Brands and Teams. Now, as you can see, I'm not holding it out simply because it was an ebook. The reason I decided to read this particular book is that in my normal day-to-day work, I am a community manager for a company called Adopt and Embrace, and I've been doing that for the last year or so and slowly building up my skills and knowledge in the area. It's a very different role to what I've been doing in the past, but it's pulling together all the different skills that I have around content development, community management, social networking, and also, I guess, online relationships and communication to the fore. And this time round, I wanted to be able to explore and build my own networks in the community management space, as well as picking up some new skills in that area through reading books and connecting with people in that area. Now, Jono Bacon is very well known for his work in communities, and I do have his original book, which I bought many years ago, but back then I didn't use it that often and it wasn't relevant back then simply because it wasn't the right time that I had bought the book, because I wasn't doing the role of a community manager. But it's funny that old book, that his first book that I bought some years ago, I have been using in my current role now, many years later. So People Powered: How Communities Can Supercharge Your Business, Brand and Teams is his new book out. And it's a book that I went through chapter by chapter, and I took a copious amount of notes, as you can see here, around the main areas of how I can build the Adopt and Embrace community. Now, I have been working in the role for about a year or so, and as I was reading Jono's book, I thought to myself, my God, I've been doing this quite accidentally. The reason is that he steps us through a process of how we can help create, he calls it a community belonging path. Now, a community, as you know, is a group of people who come together and who want to build up an area of expertise or have got an area of interest or a practice. Now, the type of community that I'm looking after are a community of IT, change, HR, marketing people who are exploring and wanting to know and build up and engage people with Microsoft 365 in their organizations and helping them use Microsoft 365 and the products in the suite of products quite effectively for change management, for adoption, for collaboration, for meeting experiences. And so what I was doing was effectively pulling together the main lessons that he shared in his book and applying it to the Adopt and Embrace community that I was also working on. So some of the three questions he asks in the book is, how are we making it easy for people to contribute and produce value in our communities? So that was a good question. The second one was, how can we help them build, contribute over and over again and build their social capital? So all of a sudden we're actually thinking about how we're helping our community members build their social capital and their reputation. And thirdly, how can we make them feel welcome and intrinsic to the community while building a sense of belonging? And sense of belonging was such a strong, critical theme throughout this book that made me start to think about how I can do the same in my own community and help people feel that it is a trusted, a safe space for them to show and share their own work and their own resources about what they're doing with a Microsoft 365 to their peers. Some other things that he provides was, he calls it the Bacon method. Now, the Bacon method is a 10-step process where he steps us through how we can create some mission and vision statements for our community and then choose an engagement model. And the engagement model was whether we want our community members to become consumers, whether we want them to be champions of our community, or whether we want them to be creators. And so I started to think what it is that I want our community to be. And so with that community engagement model, from there, we break it down to the third step, which he describes as defining the value that you want it to deliver. And then the fourth step is producing your big rocks. Now, big rocks is a term that you may have heard about it. It's kind of like your big goals, and every rock has a 3-monthly goal that has KPIs to them, have particular owners and particular tasks and activities that you can do. So it's effectively stepping you out a 3-monthly plan to achieve your big goals to build this community. His fifth step is knowing your audience and building your audience personas. Now, this was an interesting chapter because an audience persona is where you have to think about what it is who are the community members like? Who is your audience? And he comes up with a few. He comes up with users, fans, support people, content creators, advocates, event organizers, inner developers, and outer developers. And out of those audience personas, I started to think, well, what are the kind of personas that we want in our community? And I came across 3 or 4, which were, for us, I wanted advocates, I wanted fans, I wanted people who want the community as some kind of support so they could go to it and get a resource that they need or ask a question. But I also wanted some content creators as well, people who are creating content and then sharing that in the community and people having discussion around it. So audience personas was the 5th step in the Bacon method. Now, the 6th step was designing your on-ramp and engagement model, that whether you wanted people to be casually contributing or whether you wanted them to be regular contributors or whether you wanted core contributors. And he encouraged us to look at our community and kind of do some kind of ratios. How many are casuals? How many are core? How many are regulars? And if I was entirely truthful with the Adopt and Embrace Academy community, a lot of them are casuals, but there are a couple of regulars. And so my aim is to try and get that ratio up. So these are some great ways of being able to use that method to create the rocks to get more engagement. Now, the 7th step was build your quarterly plan with the use of the rocks. And he provides templates. These templates are all sitting on his website, but there's nothing stopping you from doing these websites on your own. And in fact, I am going to use the Microsoft suite of products to create the templates in Microsoft Planner, which will be perfect. So that's the 7th. The 8th is craft your maturity model and your success criteria. The 9th one is execute on cadence, obviously, and the 10th one is produce your incentives map. Now, incentivization was something that he did mention a lot, which I hadn't even considered. Sometimes, how are you going to get your community to participate? You might need some kind of incentives. Now, the incentives are all, don't think swag, don't think, generic products and stuff like that. It's all about intrinsic motivation, and that intrinsic motivation all comes from the sense of belonging and being able to do meaningful work. So, look, what value did I get out of this book? Huge amount. The big one for me was doing it alongside my normal work as a community manager. I was able to see where the gaps were. Now, prior to reading this book, I had created Academy strategy. along with tasks, but I didn't put them in timelines. I didn't use the quarterly delivery method, which is what I'm going to do now. But it was really good to be able to see where my gaps in my process were and how I could fill them up with using his method here. So the book again is Jono Bacon's People Powered: How Communities Can Supercharge Your Business, Brand and Teams. If you are a community manager, whether you are a community manager inside an organization or whether you are outside an organization with an external group, you can use the book, but I'm finding that the book is more catered for people, for community managers who are outside enterprises. Enterprise community managers have got a slightly different challenge ahead of them, especially with regards to creating a community of people who are within their organization, but still the book is relevant for them. It might just mean you have to change the terminology or change some of the templates to make it relevant for your particular internal community manager role. So that is it. That is my review of People Powered. If you have read the book, if you are a community manager who wants to share their review of it or how you are undertaking some of the tasks that Jono mentions in his book, then please share the comments below and let's connect. Okay then, bye for now. That was an awkward ending, wasn't it? I'm always awkward with my endings. Right, I'm going to head over to the stop button there and stop it now.